Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the Deep Dive Pop Culture Podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you for listening. Friends, this is not the timbre of the episode that I thought we were going to have this week. I thought we were going to be a little more, we'll find out exactly how we are. I haven't said anything yet. This is the episode wrap-up of Doctor Who Season 2, or whatever we want to call it. Ncuti Gatwa's second, and turns out final season of Doctor Who. That was a huge surprise. We're going to get into the ins and outs of that season, all the episodes, but really there's a lot to talk about with regard to how it ended. And to join me to talk about that, of course, is my longtime colleague, longtime friend, longtime Doctor Who cohort. Is that a word? Tai Gooden. Hi, welcome back, Tai.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been on.
It has been a while. I think the last time was it Animorphs? Maybe?
Yeah, well, gosh, that's a long time ago. Yeah. So that might be true, but yeah, so we were saving up for our Doctor Who discussion as usual, and yeah, there's just very surprising. Obviously, Ty and I have talked a little bit throughout the season about episodes, and yeah, it's very strange, very surprising. What the so much of it is now colored by how it ended, which was a surprise. We did not. There was not kind of a tee up that Ncuti's actually leaving. There were rumors
Right.
that he was probably only going to do 2 seasons, but then it became pretty obvious, at least through kind of the back channels that I am aware of, that and also just kind of noticing on screen, but that the ending of the finale had to be really heavily rewritten and reshot because he sometime between the time they filmed the finale and February when they did the reshoots, he decided he didn't want to do another season or didn't get signed to a contract. Who knows what? Who knows
Yeah.
exactly what happened? But it necessitated a complete shift in how things happen. So, and then of course there's he regenerates into Billie Piper, and we have absolutely no idea what that means. So, yeah, there's a lot to get through, but
Yes.
I guess I don't know. Let's just start with the finale or at least that moment. Like, were you surprised that Ncuti did not continue or regenerated in that episode?
I was surprised that he regenerated in the episode. Like you said, there were rumors going around, but usually, like, especially in the modern era, we've kind of always known when a doctor was leaving, someone else was going to take their place. Like, those are things that you really couldn't avoid because people can't keep their mouths shut. People are on taking, film and video of sets. So spoilers kind of inevitably happen. So I will say kudos to the team for keeping that under wraps because, I mean, I hadn't seen any kind of rumor, any kind of indication that Billie Piper was going to
No.
be on set, show up. So they did a really good job of keeping that under wraps. Yeah, so I was shocked to see it. I was definitely sad. I
Yeah.
felt like he wasn't going to go any longer than 3 seasons, but I was
Yeah.
definitely expecting to see him next season. Like I thought him and Belinda would have another season together, and then something would happen. They would end up going their separate ways, and then we would kind of get that clean slate again with new doctor, new companion, all of that. But definitely not this season. It made me sad because I felt like he was just starting to really get into the groove of being the doctor, and
Yeah.
his story just didn't feel like it didn't feel like it came full circle in any kind of way. Like even with the Ninth Doctor, when you go back, when Rose first met him, he's super hurt over, the Time War and losing all his people and feeling like he's the last of them. And through Rose, he found like friendship and companionship, and he kind of softened his edges a little bit and all of that. So we saw him go through a full circle journey. So even though we would have liked to have more time with him, at least I didn't feel cheated when he regenerated. With Ncuti, I feel like we've been cheated out of what could have been so much more.
Yeah. And there was also like the Ninth Doctor, I didn't watch the show in 2005, so I only know this in retrospect, but like everybody knew basically after the first episode aired that Christopher Eccleston was only doing the one season. And so they had an entire season to kind of figure that out. And also like they knew early on in the filming that he was only going to do one season. So they had time to like figure out what was going to happen next. Obviously
Yeah,
this
that's
was
true.
sort of a last minute thing, but so it puts Russell T Davies in a hard position. as a writer and to try to be like, it's not unlike actually what happened with Jodie with her season 3 that ended up being truncated because of the pandemic. Um, and which we talked about. I don't remember if it was on the show or just elsewhere that it didn't feel particularly satisfying either. But she at least had like a few specials to kind of wrap everything up, whereas this really just it felt really abrupt and it felt like it did not come naturally in the storytelling. And it also was just like, what? Like you're just gonna
Yeah,
pull your regeneration out of your chest and then it's gonna happen? Like it
right,
just
and use it to shift the world a degree, and the reason I think too, I would have been more okay with it if it weren't for the reasoning why.
Mhm.
Like, Belinda's storyline and everything that happened with Poppy just sits so poorly with me for so many reasons. I mean, it would have been different if throughout her journey we had had some kind of, again, I know that they're trying to retrofit and put something else in because they found out about this at the last minute. So I do understand and keep that in mind. But the doctor using regeneration energy to set the world into a degree to give her a child that was given to her by some like weird traditional men's rights guy, it's just it feels icky, especially when you're looking at today's social climate and things that are happening politically right now about people trying to force folks into motherhood spheres kind of without their consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, and I think that's part of the reason why the regeneration also sits poorly with me. And then with Billie Piper showing up at the end, I like Rose Tyler. I love Billie Piper as an actress. I really, really do, but I don't get it. It just kind of feeds back into this whole thing of Rose Tyler and her likeness being so important to the doctor, and it's like we're so far past that. We're 20 years past that, or nearly 20 years since her last appearance. I know she, came back for the big in-game type thing that they had going on in season 4, but I mean, we
Yeah.
haven't seen her since then outside of her appearance as, the moment, still using Rose's likeness. But between that and Belinda not really getting a chance to have any agency in those final 2 stories, which I mean, the first half of all of that stuff was already written. And so it was written with the idea that really Ruby Sunday had more time to shine and had more agency and things to actually do and to be effective in those episodes. So you have blonde Ruby Sunday who kind of overcasts Belinda, and then you have Billie Piper back again and this whole thing of Rose and how she kind of had this cast over Martha's era and all these other eras. Like the doctor just can't get past her. And that just doesn't sit right with me. Like it's not the only companion that the doctor has been close to. And the doctor's
Yeah.
had great relationships with other companions since then. So why are we circling back? There's just like a weird nostalgia grab, and I don't like it.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I don't
also
think she's the next doctor, but
no, I don't either.
yeah, I don't like what I don't like the idea of
Then
doing that.
it's like, what is that then? Like y- we've got a we've got another bridge basically, like, that was part of the conceit of the 60th anniversary is that they wanted to do something for the 60th, but they weren't ready to actually have like the full-time 15th doctor yet, or so they had David Tennant come back. And that made sense for that actually we talked about. I really liked all 3 of those episodes with David Tennant, and weirdly they're the best of the new, like, of the Disney Plus era. Like, it just unfortunately has like really not lived up to those 3 episodes. So it's that in and of itself, it's like you just did this, and then it's like Billy Piper was never a doctor. So why does he look why does the doctor now look like
Yeah,
Rose? It doesn't make
nothing
any
makes sense
sense.
about that.
It's just for us to go, "Wait, what?" Like,
Right. I would have rather just seen him shooting out regeneration energy and it
right?
just cut off, like, or to
Yeah.
be continued or something, to kind of have that mystique going of like, oh my God, who's the next doctor? What's going to happen here? But I assume Russell has a plan for this Billy
Yeah.
stuff. Is there going to be some kind of Christmas special or some kind of just general
That would be
special?
my guess, is
That's
that they would do
yeah,
something for Christmas, just because there's always something for Christmas, and maybe that will
yeah,
just be by that time, they'll have time to, like, really cast whoever the next person is. But again, it's just like, well, this stinks. Like, You know, um, also, as far as I am aware, nothing is commissioned yet. Like, they don't have another season lined up on Disney Plus or just on the BBC. Like, they just don't have it lined up. And I think part of the foot dragging, which maybe led to Shooty, like, they didn't give him a contract in time, so he's just like, "Oh, I'm out," like, whatever, which can't blame somebody for. He's a very sought after actor at this point. Um, that they may have just, uh we need to have something so it doesn't feel like it's just the end. So here's a little cliffhanger bit or whatever. And it's not like
Maybe.
RTD has been above doing, back in his original run, there was a lot of what stuff like at the end of seasons to kind of go like, wait, the Titanic crashed through the TARDIS, like all that stuff. Obviously that has happened before. But it's still just, I don't know, it felt really hackneyed and really like he just called up. He's like, "Who can I call? I have Billy's
Right.
number." Like,
And she's like, "I'm available. Sure, I'll show
yeah,
up. Why not?"
yeah,
Yeah.
you're my friend. Like, I
Yeah, it
don't
was
know.
just
It felt really, and getting backing up a little bit. I completely agree with your what you were saying about um Belinda's like storyline. There was no indication, and I know that's like, oh, we all forgot this, or the doctor forgot this, or whatever, which I hate. That's such a cop out, but um, there was never an indication that Belinda not only was a mother, but
but
that
wanted to
that
be a
was her
mom.
thing, like,
Yeah.
that she needed to be back for that particular reason. Like, she mentioned having a date the next night or whatever, like, she wanted
Mhm.
to and she just wanted to go back, like, whatever.
Yeah, I thought she just wanted to go back because she was starting a new job.
Yeah.
Like, she said as much, so, like
Yeah.
and that was the thing that I really liked about her, like, when we first met her in the Robot Revolution, I love the fact that she wasn't, like, dazzled and starstruck by the doctor like some of the other companions have been. She's just like, "Okay, this was weird. You almost got everyone killed and didn't really love that.
Yeah.
You also took my DNA without my consent, and as a nurse, definitely don't love that. I
Yeah.
appreciate your weird big space box, but I've got bills and a job, so I'm gonna need for you to take me home." Like, that was the kind of personality that we got from her, and she definitely had, like, some nurture and some care in her, and that was kinda
Well,
inherent just
sure.
from her
Yeah.
being a nurse, but
Yeah.
nothing at all that struck me that she was going to be motherly, and the intent was because I assume with the finale, everything that happened up until the point of maybe Poppy disappearing in the TARDIS, all of that seemed like that was probably supposed to be somewhere towards the end, and that
Yeah.
latter 20, 25 minutes was a lot of the reshooting and everything, so even with that, it still didn't make sense. She just, like, completely lost any kind of, agency and purpose in the story besides, I'm weary and I don't believe anything." Like, I feel like she would've doubted more, pushed back more, questioned more, but it's just like, my whole purpose revolves around motherhood and being a
Yeah.
mother to this child, and, I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm a mom, I have 2 kids myself or whatever, but, I mean, she was already important outside of that. Like, you set her up to be someone who was very kind of Donna-like in her personality, really
Sure.
strong and head forward, somebody that would challenge the doctor. I love the idea, the concept of a doctor and a nurse. I wish they had leaned into that a little bit more of
Mhm.
them kind of working together on that same playing field because a doctor really can't accomplish all the things he needs to accomplish without the nurse being there as
Mhm.
the support by the side. So yeah, there was so much of that that I wanted to see and I hope to see, and I just felt like a lot of Belinda's arc, she just every time they would give her a little bit of agency and give her a little bit of oomph in the story, they just kind of snatched it right back from her.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and
it's sad because this is the end for her now.
I know, and
Yeah.
that really is something that I liked her right away, and, it does feel like she was kind of eventually basically took a back seat, narrative-wise to Ruby, who we've already
Mhm.
spent a year with,
Right.
because obviously the Lucky Day episode sets up so much about what happens in the finale, um, and we'll get into episode by episode and stuff like that, but, um, I think your point of too about, like, anyway, I completely buy that in the fiction of, like, the dream or the wish world, they now have a child. So I completely understand, um, uh, Belinda going, "Well, now that this child exists, I feel that it is my child and we need to protect her." Like, that 100% makes sense to me. But the fact that, "Oh, she was always my child," and was, like, that really just didn't sit because it's just like
No.
there was no indication that that was the case. And it felt really rug pulley to be like, "Don't you remember, doctor? I said this all the time." And he's like, "Oh, I must have forgotten
Right.
because of brain or whatever." Like,
There was no seeding in of it at all. Even
yeah.
if it had been where she was like, "I've gotta get back to something or
Mhm.
someone, and I can't remember what." Like, if it was kind
Right.
of like, I know that I have to be back at 7:30, but I'm not really sure why. Like,
Right.
that would have even played a lot better
Sure.
of like, "I've gotta get back, but I don't know why," and then it's like, "Ah, that's why you had to get back." But they spelled it out pretty much that she was starting a new gig and she wanted to get back to her new gig. So where did all of that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I and that she just didn't really wanna leave in the first, like, she didn't wanna go with the doctor in the first place. It's not like she
right.
chose, not that she was running away from something like Amy, like, but that was obviously, like, we knew that from the beginning that Amy was supposed to get married in the morning and all that stuff, and
Hmm.
but, yeah, so much of, like, obviously, yeah, your men's rights activist guy, uh, uh,
Oh, it's the worst.
created this really horrible heteronormative, world, and, like, there's bits of it where, like, the doctor kind of intimates just that another man is attractive, and then it's like, "No," and,
Right.
like, also the fact that, Rose Noble didn't exist in his world, and it's like, oh, that's really rough, and, like,
Yeah.
but it makes, so he's going really hard into that, like, this guy has set up this horrible, like, 1950s ass, like, society because that's what he thinks is proper and good and
Perfect.
everything like that, and then for it to be like, actually, that is true, and as you said, you're a mother. I am somebody who is childless, not by choice. There are medical factors involved, and um just to have it be like, no, you have to have children in order to be, like, to have any sort of I don't know, import in the world. Like, it's just like, okay,
Yeah, it's such a wrong-headed
it's
message.
wrongheaded, like, and
Yeah,
that's not to say that people who have children aren't, like, you know what I mean, like, it's just saying that it's feeding into that heteronormative kind of, nuclear family kind of situation without ever being, like, 'cause I kinda liked the idea, in the fictionalized version that, like, Belinda and the doctor have a child that's just born out of, like,
out of
they're
their
not a couple,
imagination
but
and
they're
and yeah,
together, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, "Oh, that's kinda fun," but, like, he, like, scans her, "Oh, you're a 100% human and have always been 100% human." I also,
right.
just for Doctor Who lore purposes, do not really buy that Time Lords are inherently sterile and they have to, because that, like, feeds into some weird shit
That doesn't
from the
make any
books back
sense.
in the 80s and, 90s, I guess, where it was,
Right.
like, the looms, like, there's, like, a loom that spins the Time Lords into existence. It's a whole stupid weird
That
thing.
is weird. But there's never been any indication on the show at all that Time Lords were sterile and couldn't have children and all of that. That's weird.
And so then
Yeah,
also we
just
get,
feels like they
like,
just fisted that in there just
yeah,
to try to make a point, and it's like,
yeah,
you didn't have to do that, though. You could have just left that out, and it wouldn't have changed anything.
yeah, completely. It didn't need to exist. And also we know, like, because what I thought they were gonna set up is that if Poppy was in fact the doctor's actual child, he hadn't met her yet, and then eventually she grows up and has Susan, and then Susan meets the doctor when he's younger, but technically is her grandfather,
Right,
like, all that
yeah,
stuff. I thought that was all gonna be there somehow, and it just was not. They so then it's like, well, then how does Susan exist? You know
right.
what
It
I
was
mean? Like,
just
you showed her in an episode. Like, it's not like we're trying to ignore that Susan was his granddaughter.
right.
Like,
Yet
you
another
showed her.
thread that went nowhere, like, that I thought we were going to get something out of that, and it just kind of got dropped at the end. It was just yeah, I think the finale just had too much there was too much dip on the chip. Like, you're trying to
Yeah.
have the Ronnies in there, 2 of them, and then you introduce Omega, and he's only in there for a flash in the pan, and then you bring the 13th Doctor back, and Billie Piper's face shows up at the end for Regeneration, and so you sacrificed all of the story threads and stuff that you already had in motion, and you really didn't give any of those any kind of satisfying conclusion. Like, I don't even really think Ruby got a satisfying
Well,
conclusion.
yeah,
The
because she
Doctor's
just
like,
kind of
"I
disappears. Like,
yeah," he's like, "I have to go do this thing now. It was great. I'll holler at y'all later." Like, he didn't even, like, give her a proper farewell.
no, he didn't even say goodbye.
Right. And everybody at Unit's just sitting there like, "Okay, bro.
Yeah.
Bye, I
Goodbye.
guess."
See ya.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no kind of indication that you won't see this face again or any of that stuff. Like, ah, it
Yeah.
was weird.
Yeah, there was so much about that that I just don't feel like it worked at all. And it bums me out hardcore because I actually really liked the idea, and maybe this was what the initial ending was going to be, and obviously all that has changed, but, like, that the de-wishified wish child then got to go into foster care with the Sundays and everything like that. It's like, hey, that's fun. I like the fact
Yeah.
that that brings them back in, And that does give Ruby something to do. Like now she's, you know, um, or at least she's
Now she's got a new
incorporated.
sibling. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's the only one who remembers Poppy, which is like, but why?
Right.
Like, why was I the
Never
only
got
one who
any
remembered
explanation for
anything?
that. Yeah. Because
No,
she
like,
was, I mean, she was pretty not connected in Conrad's world at all. And there really was no reason for her not to be. Like with Rose Noble, unfortunately, we know why she didn't exist in his world. With people who were differently able, we know why they didn't, well, they existed, but they fell under his radar and were able to still have doubts and things like that. Like that
yeah,
makes sense to me.
right.
And I get what they were trying to do there of like, oh, he doesn't see us as full human beings and, people who are important so we can fall up under the radar like that. And he underestimates us. Like even if they do have doubts, they can't do anything because they're they're not they're not, they're differently able people, so they can't do anything. So I get all of that, but none of that really explains how Ruby was able to grasp on anything. And again, it's just to me, it's kind of amping her up and building up her story and giving her, a stronger narrative than your main companion that you brought in for this season that you should be focusing on. She
Yeah,
definitely should have took a back seat to Belinda having a stronger narrative, a stronger storyline.
yeah. Belinda, I
Yeah.
thought Belinda was so good for the first 3 episodes.
And then after that, it just slowly went downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
It
was more of her just kind of like, "I wanna go home, I wanna go home, I don't know what's going on. Ah, I wanna go home." It felt in some ways kinda Mary Sue-ish at times, and it's like,
mm,
I don't like that."
yeah. So let's get into the episodes as they aired. So there was only 8 of them. I forget, did we talk? I'm sure I could look. And also this should be cut out, and yet I'm gonna leave it in. But did we talk about the Christmas special?
I don't know. I went back and I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. I went back and, like, rewatched it and everything because it had been a while since I had seen it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's considered to kinda be a part of this season, and
Yeah,
it
it's
does
like
tie in because
it'll
we
be in
get,
that box
Anita
set.
coming back. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and Anita, so we do kind of need to talk about
yeah,
that.
whom I
I
really
know
like.
I talked about it. I have friends. I have many Doctor Who podcasts, but so I know I have talked about it in the past, but I don't remember if you and I did. But anyway, just for the sake of it, I will say that I didn't particularly love that episode, even though Moffat is my favorite writer on the series. Um, I loved all the stuff with Anita and the Doctor having to sit at this hotel until the next year comes around. Like I loved all that stuff. I really thought that I was going to really like the character Joy because I really like Nicola Coughlan, but uh I didn't. I didn't really care that much, and I thought it was very hackneyed to try to tie in the pandemic and stuff like that. So I didn't particularly like that episode, but it was somewhat better, I guess, than the Church on Ruby Road, which I didn't think was very good.
Same. Definitely better for me than the Church on Ruby Road. Loved Anita, like, and her and the doctors come. I actually would have preferred to see them, go through an adventure. And I just felt like they had better on-screen chemistry, and I just liked the way that character felt more fully formed
Very much.
than Joy did. And it's not impossible, even though a character is only in one episode. Like it's not impossible for them to give that character enough oomph for you to actually, care about them and then be invested in them. And I just didn't feel that with Joy at all. Like, love the time hotel and that whole concept of it and the idea of playing off of, this strange locked door in a hotel room and you don't really know what's behind it, but you can only theorize that's there. Like I thought that was really cool. I mean, I felt like it was serviceable, it was fine, but it's not something that I would want to go back and revisit. Like the only reason I revisited is because I figured we was probably gonna talk about it here. So
Yeah, totally.
otherwise, I wouldn't have gone back and to
No.
look at it at all.
And like I remember when it was in your interview, I think, because you got to
Mm,
interview Russell and Steven. They're my friends. I can call them that. I've never met them. Um Not true. I have actually met both of them. But I think they said that part of it was that they were really, or Moffat was really liking that actor who was playing Anita. I'll look her up real fast, but
mhm.
um, and so just kept beefing up that because initially the idea
Yeah,
was that the
she
doctor
was
was going to
supposed to
kind of,
be very flash in
yeah,
the pan. Yeah, and she
he was
definitely
going
got
to
a much
travel
bigger
around.
role.
Steph DeWally, I believe is how you, or Wally, Steph DeWally, um, like Joanne Wally, who used to be married to Val Kilmer. These are all facts that I know. Um, But she was really great, and I love their little, and also, like, I'd probably save money that they just had to use that one room in that one hotel set, like, a little bit,
Yeah.
um, but she was great, and I was glad she got to come back, a little bit to kinda tie things up, even though she just stood in doorways, like, "Hey, that's good enough, I guess," but
Yeah. She's like, I just work for the hotel. And I'm like, oh, you're like a you're like a total like cool person now.
yeah.
And she's doing all this stuff while she's pregnant. I thought it was fun to see her come back.
Yeah, it was
But
nice. I liked it.
yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I like the time hotel and that whole concept too. They had also talked about a couple of other like weird things they wanted to do, like they wanted to, go to different parts of Egypt and wanted to go to like, rainforests and do things like that, but they just really didn't have the budget or the time to be able to get that in. So that would be fun for Big Finish to explore, like Big Finish Audios to take and do some just time hotel adventures because
I
there's
would
a
love
lot
a
of
time
stuff
hotel.
happening there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be really interesting. But then, of course, we got, in April, we got the Robot Revolution, which is the beginning, which uh most of the bad guys this season were all like cringy bad, like middle class white guys. And I think that uh while accurate to the villainry of the day, does not if you're gonna have one be your sort of main villain, I think having two whole other episodes where that's kind of a bad guy is just like, are we I
We're
don't
just
in
yeah,
retrospect.
we're spinning our wheels here.
Yeah. What did she call it? Planet of the Incels? It's like, oh god, like that is so on the nose. Like, did we need
It's
to do that?
very incel culture 101
Yeah.
there. And I mean, I'm like, if you were going to go that route of like using this man's wish for a world where women have no agency and power or anything like that, again, if this is Belinda's season and she's
Mhm.
supposed to be the main companion that's helping to drive the narrative, why didn't we just use Belinda's boyfriend and somehow he's able to come back and be a part of this, be a part of all the stuff that was happening? Like, why is it Conrad,
Right. Yeah, this
the
Alan
guy who
Budd
Ruby dated?
character.
Yeah.
And also, like, oh, that ties into something else too. So it's like, who it doesn't make any sense. Whatever, it's fine. Because Poppy's dad is some other guy that we've never heard of before. I don't
Presumably someone who looks like Ncuti Gatwa.
Yeah, because they have to tie in the fact that, but that doesn't make any sense either because
No,
Poppy was a space baby and it was that same baby. All right. You
literally
know
the
what?
same child. Like, no explanation for any of that. Terrible. Like,
Makes me annoyed.
ugh,
That said, I did quite like, other than some of those bits, I did like the Robot Revolution. I liked that. I like Belinda right out the gate. I thought she was just like, what is happening and why is this happening? And she's a very practical person, which I think is good. Because Ruby was sort of a dreamer kind of character, which is fine. Like, it kind of follows the same. I mean, Russell T Davis is nothing if not full of patterns, but like if Ruby is the kind of Rose analog, then obviously Belinda is sort of the Martha analog.
yeah,
Literally, like one's a nurse and one's a doctor in
working in the
training. Like,
medical field.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, has a family that she wants to get back to, like all that stuff. Like that's very,
Mhm.
at least Belinda was actively not in love with the doctor. It's one of the few times that that's happened. Um, but I thought that there was a lot of interesting with that episode in terms of like, I like that every ninth word or whatever it was, the robots
Love that.
couldn't
That's
process. I
so
thought that was
clever.
really rad.
Yeah, and Belinda, like, slowly catching on to that
Yeah.
or whatever is so funny to me because, again, she's so serious and she's just looking at the doctor at first like, "What?
Yeah.
Like,
Why are you talking
what
like
are you
this?
talking like that?"
Yeah.
And then you see it kind of click with the light on in her brain. It's like, "Ah, okay, I get it now." Yeah, I love the way that she was introduced. I like Planet Belinda Chandra, like, how everything was kind of like 1950s retro and
Yeah.
they're using this big, like, clunky spaceship and the bots are all clunky and all of that stuff, and,
I love
um
retrofuturism so
me
much.
too. It was so, so cool looking. Like, the little bit of it that we didn't get a chance to see a lot of it because we kinda
Yeah.
stayed in the same place, of course, but I thought that was really cool. I like the idea of the doctor once again being stuck somewhere and forced to sit down and have to wait, and the idea that he had to work his way up to be the historian was funny to me.
Yeah.
It's
He's
like,
like,
what were the steps that you had to go through? Like, what's the training you had to go to be the historian of a planet
yeah.
that you're not
At any
from?
point where you like did you have to go to night school?
So
Which,
the idea of him sitting down and having to study the history of this planet named after a Earth woman who doesn't know
yeah.
exists is funny to me. And I
That's,
just like the
yeah.
whole concept of the story of like someone taking your name, sending up to space. Because I mean, a lot of us have done that. Like I've done that before, where I've written my name. It's like, oh, put your name on this NASA spaceship, and it'll go up to space, and
Right.
like it being intercepted, and the aliens seeing you as some sort of like leader or gods or something like that. The story behind it was good because I got a chance to talk to Russell T Davies again about this episode in particular, and he was talking about how he was inspired by a British rock star. I think his name was Justin Hawkins, maybe?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
he's the lead singer of the Darkness, but
Right.
there was a photo of him that was sent up into space as a boy, and so Russell was always wondering, like, well, what happened to that photo? And what would happen if somebody, like an alien, intercepted it and wanted to come and collect Justin from Earth and make him their leader? Like, that was where he got the whole concept from. So I thought it was fun. Like, I really, really liked it. I love Belinda. Her introduction to the TARDIS is like, I love a new companion seeing the TARDIS for the first time. It was fun because she did have the unexpected, like, oh my God, like this is absolutely nuts. But, like I
Yeah.
said earlier, I like the fact that she got past that really quickly and was like, okay, that was a thing that happened. That was very weird, but I want to go home. I'm not trying to hang out with you. I don't want to be your like mystery to be solved or any of that stuff. Like I really like that about her. I thought she had a really strong start as a companion.
I did too. I thought it was a it was a good first episode for Belinda, which I think is kind of all you can not all you can hope for, but that is something that it does not always happen.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, like the interesting Martha tie, like one of my favorite first stories of a companion is Smith and Jones because I just feel
I
like
love
they
it.
got, even though it's kind of a silly, weird story, like I think the two of them really bounce off each other really well.
Hmm.
Um, and the same thing here. I think Belinda kind of figures out the doctor's whole shtick and is not like 100% on board with it, but
Right.
um, at least understands that he's trying to help and everything like that. So yeah, I like that. And Alan Budd, notwithstanding, I thought it was a pretty good episode. Now, episode 2 was Lux, which you and I had a lot to talk about at the time. I actually think I've softened on this episode after.
Same. The
Yeah.
first time I saw it, I did not like it at all. Like, and I don't know, maybe it was because I did like Robot Revolution quite well. And I mean, when it comes to like liking and enjoying, a Doctor Who episode, it doesn't have to be a 9 out of 10 or anything like that. It doesn't have to be some kind of big revelation or, something that's, super like dazzling for me to be able to enjoy it. Cause I think a lot of those episodes that maybe don't have those bombastic moments and stuff, that's really where the magic of Doctor Who lies, right? Like in the character building, in those smaller moments and those little storytelling things. So I really like Robot Revolution. And then we kind of came into this and I just, maybe especially from the opening scene and once we got to the end, I was expecting a different tone throughout the episode.
Hmm.
And so maybe I set an expectation and it was wrong for me to set that expectation and then just expect for them to follow what I had in my brain. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought that it was going to be a little bit more like The Well, kind of like horror thriller, mystery leaning. And it introduced a little bit more like kind of silly weirdness that didn't necessarily sit with me the first time I saw it. But when I
Yeah.
went back and saw it again, I was like, okay, maybe this wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And I think some of it too was just I was also like, why are y'all in 1952?
Well, there was that aspect too, like the
Yeah.
fact that they were in Miami in 1952 and they're both not white people. And it's just
Right.
like, and
Yeah.
that does kind of become part of it, but also not. Like it just was like, well, then what was the point of doing it
Yeah.
then?
They kind of just threw in a little bit of that, oh, got to remember that these people aren't, white. Like, let's
Yeah,
touch on, like racism exists or whatever. And it's like
right.
you didn't have to do that because it didn't have anything to do with the story
Right. It's not
at
like there was
all.
a bunch of it's not even like the projectionist was a racist or anything like that.
No.
Like something that would have been like, I don't know what
Yeah.
specifically.
Something where you would
Um,
have had to address that specifically. Like there was nothing there that required that at all. And the doctor, like I don't think he would have done that on purpose and went to that spot. Like you couldn't go anywhere else to charge up your vindicator.
I know.
Why are you there? Because the doctor admits, not in this episode, and I assumed at the time that the doctor was quite aware of what he looked like. Like you
Mhm.
present as a black male, you've been around humans, you know what they're like. And
Well, I
the doctor
mean,
even says so a couple of episodes later of like,
yeah,
hey, I've been to a lot of places and I haven't been treated so kindly. So for
yeah,
you to do that and then also take Belinda with you just seems really irresponsible on his part.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, this is coming on the heels of Dot and Bubble also, where like that was the first one where he like gets hit with the fact that, oh, okay, this is the
Yeah.
way people treat me now, or possibly treat me now. Um, Yeah, it just didn't seem like it needed to be there. Also, look, and this is absolutely nitpicking, and I completely am aware of this, but rubber hose animation was not a thing in the 50s. So if the idea was like this is an old thing that I just keep showing, that's fine. But like by the 50s, they were done with that's a very 1930s style of animation. And so having Lux be this like I don't even know what, like,
Popular figure.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was
like,
just sort
nope,
of like,
no, he wouldn't have been.
yeah, no. By this point, he would have been finished. But regardless, by the 50s, like Disney was on to like really pristine looking, like Mickey Mouse and Goofy shorts. But um, at any rate, that is my animation nitpick. Um, there's a lot going on in Russell's 2 years thus far, returning about this pantheon of gods and everything like that. And I'm not 100% sure that Lux really makes sense within the god of light makes no sense. And also, why would he have, like, if he was just going to expand and then turn into light at the end? Like, I don't know, understand why that was a bad thing. And like, why was he
Yeah,
abducting people? And it was just, it felt
I
really
didn't get
muddled.
it. Yeah,
And I've had an argument with a friend of mine about the kind of meta aspect of it, like the fact that the Doctor and Belinda go to a place where Doctor Who fans are watching Doctor Who on TV, and then very quickly they go, "Actually, we're fake. This is all just fake." And like, well, there was nothing for the Doctor to figure out, and it just sort of felt like
right,
cutesy and stuff. And I thought, and this friend of mine was like, "Well, we haven't seen the whole thing yet. We don't, the whole season. Surely there's something that ties everything together. There's too much meta narrative going on. The fact that Mrs. Flood slash the Ronnie can talk to the camera and stuff like that." And then no, the answer is no. There was absolutely nothing that tied anything together. It was just a thing that happened. And so that, while I don't dislike the episode as much as I did at the time, I still think it's kind of muddy in the grand
yeah,
scheme of things. I think that's the thing that befell a lot of these episodes is that when you see the full picture, it's like, well, then what was the point of
right. What
this?
was the point of that? Yeah,
Yeah. Um, but then we get to a couple episodes. Well, we get to the well, which I was pleasantly surprised by.
I like the will.
That one was co-written by Russell and Sharma Angel Wallfall, um, uh, who, as far as I am aware, like she had written a script, and then Russell was sort of like, "Ooh, we can tie this back into Midnight," which I think is kind of a cool idea. It's a because Midnight is my favorite, like was one of my favorite stories ever, but it's definitely my favorite Russell T Davies script from the original run. I just think it's such a great creepy, like chamber piece. And I like that this one kind of expanded a little bit that, and I guess millennia is supposed to have passed on this planet. And so the creature might have evolved or something like that. And so it doesn't uh, infect the person's like brain and how they speak. It literally just like resides behind them and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I thought that was really effectively done, and it was very creepy. And that little glimpse that you get of the creature, just half a frame or whatever, I thought was
was
really creepy, and that's
yeah, it
something
was
Doctor Who
very
doesn't do very
scary.
well, or doesn't do very often, I mean.
Yeah, love that episode. Love Belinda and Shooty's or the 15th Doctor's dynamic in there. And then I like a villain or like an entity or whatever have you that plays on like different human emotions or thoughts, like, paranoia and panic. And you got all these people trying to that go into like self-preservation mode kind of at their own detriment and all of that stuff. I like the way that they incorporated British Sign Language into the mix and how they were communicating with Alice with the screens and all of that stuff. Like, and I like that the ending too wasn't super neatly tied up and that it still left, this idea of like you didn't get rid of this entity. It's still there and it's still going to continue to do what it does because the doctor can't defeat everything. Like there's no way to be able to wrap everything up always and tie it up into a nice bow. So I really like that. I like the tie to see that, of course, tying it to Midnight and making it a sequel, I thought was really cool too. I like when shows do things like that because I mean it's definitely nice for fans who've been sticking around for a while, but then it also gives like newer fans who may have come into Shooty's era and this is kind of their first, dealing with Doctor Who or whatever, they can come back and be able to go back to, previous episodes and kind of dig back a little bit and enjoy those connections and all of that stuff. So I thought it did a really good job of balancing that, like giving us something that tied back to a really classic popular episode, but giving them something to kind of feed off of that doesn't require too much homework, and it's not like, oh, what is this? But they're
Yeah.
seeing David Tennant, you're seeing those flashbacks, and it's like, okay, midnight. Maybe I need to go back and like look at this and kind of
Right.
research and look it up. So I think it did a really good job with that.
I do too. I think this one
Yeah.
stands up as I actually haven't done like a ranking or anything like that, but I think this is definitely like in the top 2 maybe of my episodes this season. I thought this one was
Hmm.
excellent.
Yeah.
Um,
Belinda was great in this
she
episode.
really was.
Like, I mean, she, like again, being who we think she would be, jumping right into nurse mode, protecting Alice when people were trying to turn against her and automatically make her the enemy and stuff. And she's like, no,
Mhm.
don't come near her. Don't touch her. I'm going to help her whether you say she's dangerous or not, because that's what I'm supposed to do. It's my nature. It's in my nature to help people. I'm a nurse. And even though I don't know what any of this stuff means, and it doesn't translate to what nursing is on earth, I'm going to do what I can to be able to help. And that's very, very like, that's very doctory of her, but it's also just very typical good companion, like ideal is to want to help even in the face of danger. So
And
I liked it.
infamously, or one of the things that makes Midnight so effective is the fact that the doctor is alone, like that Donna is not around.
Hmm.
And so people have no reason to just trust him outright, because usually when people go, "What is this guy?" like there's at least the companion there to be like, "No, he's right," like blah 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 blah, all the
Right,
um and so I did like the fact that in this one, um Belinda's not 100% like, she disagrees with the doctor and how he takes on stuff, and then they go off in their different direction, but she gets to be the one, she's the focal point really of the, no, leave her like you said. and
right,
and then you have these, they're not just people on a trip who are scared, it's like these are people with guns, like
right. And
who
they're
are
trained to
right,
attack and defend themselves and defend each other. So
and
yeah,
they're
again, I mean
mad
that
that
it
yeah,
shows like in a situation like that how our human nature is so far worse than whatever it is that we're facing. Because they immediately got paranoid. They immediately started turning on each other and dividing up factions, and they're fighting for power and all of that stuff. So once again, humans being humans, bad thing,
yeah. And
bad
we
thing in a
haven't said her
crisis.
name, but Varada Sethu plays Belinda Chandra, and she's great. Man,
Great.
really
Yeah.
great. You might remember her from the Boom episode last season, which they never really fully tied in. They did mention that she looks exactly like her, but then that was it. That didn't get tied
Yeah.
in at all. But she was also on Andor, and is a really good character on Andor as well. So
How
she's great.
iconic is that though to be on Doctor Who and Andor at the same time?
Yeah,
Like you
100%.
are
Like,
I'm like, girl, you're rocking it.
absolutely.
Also, her and Shooty just look so great together. Like, I just have to say that. Like every time I saw them, they were calling themselves mom and dad, and they were doing their press tour in New York City. And they were like mom and dad are just we're out in the city, we're having a good time. And like for a whole week, it was such a joy to look at them on Instagram and just let loose. They're at like a Knicks game. They go to Times Square. Like they're just doing all the classic like touristy things that you do when you're
Absolutely.
in New York City. And they look so fabulous. Like some of the outfits were coordinating, like they were really great together. And I got a chance to talk to them together at the very beginning of the season, which I wish it had been closer to the middle or the end of the season so we could have
Mm.
gotten into more, because I had only seen one episode, just Robot Revolution. That was the only one I saw before we
Oh
spoke.
yeah,
But
that's true.
they had such great chemistry together. Like it was fantastic. It was really, really nice to see them together. And I thought they made a good TARDIS team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have, yeah, and like I said, those first 3 episodes, like, it's the Belinda show, and I was really on
And I'm
board
here
with it.
for it.
And then we get episode 4, which is an interesting concept, which is like we have a whole episode, a Doctor Light episode, and again, those are sort of things that are necessities of scheduling and budgets and things like that. Um, and also it's effectively companion light, because what you have is Unit and especially Ruby Sunday coming back. And this is the episode that I think I am the most, I don't know, like, this episode made me so upset the first time I watched it. Not not because Conrad was, I mean, a horrible, nasty, like maybe one of the worst villains I mean, in terms of like, other than the space racist that was in Rosa a bunch of years ago, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, he
that guy
sucked. It
sucked.
was
But
terrible.
he's cut from the same cloth where it's just like, oh,
Right.
you
Yeah.
hateful bastard.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
um,
And being so mean to Ruby like that was just
that
so
was my big
wrong.
thing. It's
Like,
like, why are we kicking Ruby?
gosh,
Like, she
why are
did
you
nothing
kicking her?
wrong.
She's already down and trying to like deal with
Yeah,
everything that she saw. And I didn't even realize, or I didn't even like give her enough credit for going through some pretty like gnarly things during her time with the doctor. Because I mean, she did have that, dreamer personality, and they had a lot of fun together, and they were kind of like this whimsical duo and stuff. But I'm like, wow, like she really did go through a lot of stuff, and had her own bits of trauma, and she's trying to deal with that. And then she finally feels like, I don't have the doctor anymore. I'm trying to figure out this new life. I'm trying to get to know my mom and, my biological mom, and get to know my dad, who again we never saw. I thought he was going to be a part of the narrative this season, with whatever role she would play. But anyway, guess we'll never hear about that again. But, you know, she's trying to do all of these things. She finally meets this guy and feels like she can really, connect with him and stuff. And he turns out to be the worst person ever, like a just weird conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, you are the person who shouldn't be a conspiracy theorist. You met the doctor multiple times. Did you not see the TARDIS disappear into thin air? Like,
I
it's
just I
so weird because I think he actually like it's I didn't get the feeling that he was just being a conspiracy theorist just to get people on board and just to like take advantage of them. Like that was part of it, but I feel like he actually believed a lot of what he was saying. Like he was really invested in his own foolishness.
yeah, he definitely got high on his own supply in terms
Yeah,
of but it did seem like it well, I mean, because the whole thing where he tried to work at Unit and they turned him down because he didn't pass the psych evaluation, which is like,
right.
well, um, yeah, it
It's like,
just
what
was
was your
sort of
aim
like
there? Were you going to infiltrate
and also,
unit
what are you
and
proving? Like,
right? I don't
you
know.
have the capability to set up this alien, like, fake alien attack. It doesn't prove that Unit's doing anything wrong. Like,
Right.
they're literally showing up because they
As a
think
matter of
there's an
fact, they're
alien
doing
attack.
their job that they said they're doing, that taxpayers are paying them to do, which is protect
And at
people.
no point does because it's like, "Aha, see, Unit lied to us. There's no real aliens. We made these up." And it's
No,
like, no, they should have like, if you wanna getcha them, they should have made them up,
right.
but they didn't. Like,
Yeah, you made it up.
yeah,
And they did what they were supposed to do. It's so weird. Oh my god.
it's it makes me insane, and it's also because, you know, I think Conrad is one of the most hateful characters in the history of Doctor Who, and I do when we get to the finale, I do think he gets off very light.
He
Um,
does. And I mean, him playing a role again in what happened to Belinda at the end just annoys me to no end. Like, why is there a world where you get to be okay? Yeah. I wanted your existence to not be a thing anymore.
yeah, it very yeah. I this episode really bummed me out because I like Ruby so much, and
Mhm.
um, I and they really did a good job of set. This was written by Pete McTighe, who wrote for the Jodie seasons, and is the head writer, I think, on the upcoming Sea Devil show, the war
He
between
is.
the land
Yeah.
and the sea.
Yeah.
So anyway, um, so he knows stuff like this, but he also wrote Kablam, Kerblam, which is one of my least favorite Jodie episodes, and he does kind of the same thing where it's like, wait a minute, like the revolutionary's the bad guy and the company's the good guy. Like there's a weird kind of emphasis on this kind of, and I think he's trying to be like progressive, but I don't think it comes
Yeah,
across.
it's not
But
landing the way that he's imagining it would
it
at
is
all.
not. So yeah, this episode bummed me out, and that was which is
Yeah,
weird
when
because the
Mrs. Flood
Ruby,
let him out at the end, I'm like, "Oh, no. Are
yeah,
we making him a thing?"
yeah,
Like,
and we did.
and we did make him a thing, but it gave us our first hint that he was gonna be a thing, and I was like, "I don't like this because this means we're gonna see him again."
Yeah, I don't want him to be a
Yeah.
thing. Episode 5, I think, is an interesting case. The Story in the Engine, written by Inua Elams. I hope I'm saying that right. A Nigerian-born British poet. It was directed by Macaulay McPherson, who is a Black British woman. And I think it's in. We talked about this at the time. There is not a white person anywhere on screen or like
I was
directly below the
very
line. Like Russell T
surprised.
Davis is the only high
Yeah.
listed person
I
who
was really
isn't of
surprised. It
color.
was cool to see that,
Yeah.
like, really, really cool to go to a place that we haven't really visited, in Doctor Who before, and to tell this story. And I mean, there were definitely elements of it that I'm like, okay, this is, it's nice that you're kind of opening up things that are traditional, not only for, Black people over in Africa, but for, Black American people and stuff too, like the, tradition of storytelling with braiding and, how much hair is such a big part of our culture and everything. So I did appreciate, a lot of those things and stuff, but I'll admit that it's like outside of that, it's not really my favorite episode. Like I just found the whole my body is a barbershop thing, just to be kind of
That is a weird line, I have to say.
odd. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way it was directed quite a bit. And I also like, I mean, the idea of stories kind of having this sort of power to them. I'm a I'm a fan of writing, and I do think words have meaning and all that, great stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the way that they were visualized with the kind of like pseudo cave painting style. Like I thought that was really neat and stuff like that. And I thought a lot of the side characters were interesting. But yeah, I think I liked it more than you did, but I do understand what you mean, that it is sort of like it's kind of doing a weird thing with like a real tradition, and
Right.
it kind of is um
Yeah, I'm not sure those 2 things blended together, and
right.
there is a way to blend it together, but I'm not sure those things blended together in a way that, and like I said, I think I'm probably on the minority, like,
I've
side of
definitely
this or
heard more
whatever.
people say they
Yeah,
really
I've
like
heard
this
more people
episode.
say, and I mean, and even talking to other fans of color and stuff, I've definitely, and specifically other, Black, Doctor Who fans of color, like, they definitely like it a little bit more. I'm just not sure for me that it really married those 2 things together in a way that resonated with me. Like, I got what they were trying to do, and I definitely, like, overall, I really appreciated it, and I really like that about this season. Same thing with The Well. Like, The Well was written by a Black woman. She did a fantastic
Mhm.
job with, that story and everything, so I like seeing more representation behind the scenes too, as well as what we were seeing on screen. Like, I did appreciate that. But yeah, it's probably not one that I'll really want to go back and revisit like that. I think some things probably could have been tweaked a bit. The first time I watched it, I wasn't really sure that everything connected with me with the, like the antagonistic force and all of that stuff. But it was fine.
Yeah, I
Like,
wanna go back, when I do my season rewatch, whenever that is gonna be.
mhm.
Um, I've had Andor on the brain, so I haven't had time to go back and rewatch anything, but,
Yeah,
uh, I'll be interested to see how I feel about this one, because I still think it's maybe the 3rd best episode of the season, like,
yeah,
so
yeah. It's
and
not a bad episode
right,
for sure. Yeah, it's just not one of my favorites. Like, I think overall this season, like if you're comparing it to season one, I think there was more just like consistency in terms of quality across the
100%,
board.
yeah.
I felt like season one was very much so up or down, and like some things were really, really great and stand out, and then other things were just. And I mean, not just me thinking that it, kind of is like, like general fandom consensus of like what's going on here. Like it just felt like it was all over the place. But this season, I felt like it was definitely more even keeled in terms of
Yeah,
quality. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, true, like, if when I do well, which is a bummer that we have to do it so soon, but, like, when I do my full shooty kind of ranking, like, I think all the low end and all the high end will be from season 1, and then season 2 will basically just be, like, the midsection. I think there might be a little bit of, like,
yeah,
because there were some, like, the next song giveaway. The next episode, we're gonna talk about the Interstellar Song Contest. I did like quite a bit, way more than I expected to.
me
I thought I was
too.
going to really dislike the episode
Yeah,
because I don't care about song contests at all, and it ended up being, like, one of the darkest episodes, and definitely Shooty's kind of, like, "I'm getting unleashed here," kind of, like,
yeah.
anger, um, and I
He
really
was a
liked it.
star in that episode.
That one was written
So
by
great.
Juno Dawson, who was on the, like, Doctor Who fan show and then got to write
Mhm.
an episode, which I think is really rad. Um, and she didn't know that, Susan was gonna be involved until
Oh, wow.
afterwards, which is
Yeah,
cool. It's like,
that is very cool.
yeah, um,
God, I wanted that Susan bit to go
I know,
somewhere. I
it
was
just did not pay
really
off.
hoping for it was so good to see her again, and I mean, it made everyone go absolutely wild for her to show up. Because I know when I was watching it, I was just like, "Ah, it's Susan, oh my god." There have just been so, like, many hints and ideas that she's kinda like the I don't know, it's kinda like the Mephisto of, the MCU or whatever. It's like, "Is she gonna show up? Is she gonna show up? Is this her? Is that her?"
Yeah,
Yeah, and so it was really, really cool to see her actually show up.
there is definitely a level of that where, um and I think there's accusations in the fan community about this, but that Russell basically went, what are the things that everybody always assumes or thinks it's gonna be and it never is? One's Susan and one is the Ronnie, and let's put them both in the
Right, let's
same
do
season.
both.
Is Mrs. Flood
Sure.
the Ronnie or Susan? She is the Ronnie, not Susan,
Right.
but Susan is around, sort
Yeah,
of.
I definitely never thought she was Susan, but I mean, the Ronnie thing just seems so. I was I wasn't shocked, but it was just like, "Oh, that just seems so obvious." With the flood and, Ronnie being an anagram for rain, like, it just
Yeah,
seemed really obvious. It's like, you could at least give her a different name or something, because I mean, everybody sussed that out immediately,
yeah. It was very yeah, and obviously that the episode ended with Mrs. Flood
that revelation.
bi-generating into Archie Punjabi and Anita Dobson and stuff, which is so it's like, okay, 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 okay. But to give the episode itself its due, I think I actually there was a lot of people that I know who were upset that there wasn't more about the song contest, and I'm like,
That's not why we're
that's
here.
not interesting. That's not a story. That's
No,
just a
not at
song
all.
contest. Maybe you like
That
Eurovision, but
when all those people floated up into the
that was
atmosphere and started
incredible.
freezing, I was just like, my mouth was visibly, like, hanging open. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god. How in the world are they gonna fix this?" Like, it seems so hopeless, and all the stuff about, the Hellion race and everything they went through and how their planet was eradicated and stuff, like, it definitely went in a much darker direction than I thought it was. And the doctor's anger
Oh, yeah.
and, like,
Very
really showing that anger and stuff, like, it was great. Shooty was fantastic in that scene, like, his anger it felt so real, like, so palpable.
yeah.
Yeah.
And and you get the like, again, this is another although he is more justified, the bad guy in this one, he's sort
Mhm.
of like but the fact that it was just another kind of like
I wish it had
sh
been more alien, like, he had been more just traditional,
yeah.
purple, green, some kind of alien or something like that, but with them looking humanoid, it's kinda like,
Uh,
"Are we
that
doing this
the
again?"
it's inescapable kind of, like,
Yeah.
um and there was also the Hellions sort of being, because they look different, because they look kind of evil compared to other, because they have horns and stuff,
Horns.
that, the singer whose the name escapes me at the moment, but, like, she had to cut off her horns or, like, hide them and stuff like that, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
I found that really resonant in a lot of ways, and
Mhm.
the fact that these people were just, obviously wrong-headed, but Kid, the character played by Freddie Fox, was doing this as sort of like a "you can't oppress us forever" kinda thing, like,
Right.
I'll but you can't kill or try to kill trillion people, and the doctor's not gonna do
Wild.
anything about it, like
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, he was going for the vengeance, but he was taking it way, way, way too far. That's a lot of people to kill, bro.
yeah,
Like,
that
chill
that
out.
that's a lot. Um, but yeah, I really liked this one. This one is in
Me
the
too.
running for my favorite of the season, surprisingly. Really didn't expect it, but Shooty's great in it, goes really dark. I like the fact that Belinda goes, "I didn't recognize you." Like, that scared me because you're always so, like, good, you know?
Yeah, I like to see her on her own too
Me
and
too.
figuring some things out by herself. And even though she had that moment of kind of panic of like, oh my God, he's gone. What do I do? How do I get home and everything? Like she, found some people, got it together, and immediately like got like right into action. Like, okay, I'm gonna help try to rectify this situation and do what I can to save myself and see if I can get the doctor back or whatever. Like it was a good showing for her
Very
too.
much.
Yeah.
And I liked her with Mike and Gary a lot as well. I
I
liked
love
those
Mike and
guys.
Gary. Yeah.
Yeah, big fan of that. So, yeah, I think my favorite of the season, weirdly enough. Did not expect it to be, and I think it was.
I thought it was gonna be fillery, but it wasn't.
Me too. I thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be kind of cutesy and, like, ugh.
Hmm.
Thought it was gonna be more annoying. I thought it was gonna be in space baby
So we're
range,
doing a musical.
100%. And there was way more like, that's the thing, it's like, there were, like, legitimate musical numbers in the episode, so it's not like there wasn't song contest in there.
Right.
I found that really weird that people were, like, complaining.
We don't want more. That's not why we're here.
Um, and then we get to the two-part finale. We have Wish World. We've already talked a fair amount about the reality war, at least the ending, but Wish World, I think, was an upsetting watch because we know what Conrad's world is like, and that
Yeah.
he forces the doctor, who is unabashedly queer and happy about it, um,
Right.
into this very, nuclear family role. Um, I thought that was really upsetting to watch.
It
Uh,
was. Yeah.
there were some bits of it that, as always, like where it's like, why is it always teacups falling through tables? Like, I don't get why that is
Yeah.
always the thing. Everybody has doubts, and then I also really didn't like. that yet again in yet another like alternate weird future or whatever that Carla Sunday turns on her daughter again. I don't know why they did
Yeah,
that
I don't
2
know why they
times.
keep doing that because I mean, she's not a bad adoptive mom. Like, she's shown
No.
herself to be a really loving, kind, and pretty
I guess that's 3 times
open-minded
because it happened a
person.
little bit in,
Yeah,
when Ruby didn't exist or whatever in the church on
right.
Ruby Road, she was really cold,
Yeah.
and then she completely turns
She
Ruby
ran
in
away from her on
73
73
yards. Yeah.
yards.
And then in this, just, yeah, calls the authorities on her. It's just like,
Right. I'm like, "What? Don't do Carla like that.
yeah, I
Carla's
didn't like
cool."
that. But I do think, like, the setup, like, somebody who's written on Doctor Who before, Paul Cornell, one time told me, anybody can write the beginning of a story. And that I think is so, like, I always kind of hesitate in saying whether I really like or dislike the first part of a two-parter because it's like, well, I don't know.
Right.
Is it gonna come
Is it gonna
together? And
stick the
I
landing? Yeah.
ultimately don't think it really did. But as a
No.
setup, I thought it was cool. I like the Ronnie, like separating what the Ronnie is to make her l- um obviously different from the Master slash Missy. I think that was something that could have gone in either direction, but the Ronnie is amoral and doesn't care about humanity. She's not evil to the point where like I'm gonna kill everybody. She's like, I'm doing this for this particular purpose. I just don't care if anybody gets
Right,
hurt.
and if anything else happens, it's not my problem.
Yeah,
It's just kinda
exactly.
collateral damage. Oh,
Yeah,
well. I really liked her as the Ronnie.
I did too. I was
Yeah,
annoyed
and I
that she
liked her
got
chemistry with 15, like, showing
yeah,
them all the things and them kind of dancing around, and, "Do you remember this? Do you remember that?"
yeah,
Ah, man, I wanted more from her. I
me too.
hate that she got chomped up by Omega in point 0.2 seconds
I also
in the
really
finale.
I thought Omega was real Omega or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought he was so lame. Like the
Yeah.
character, if you haven't watched 70s and 80s Doctor Who, I don't blame you folks. But Omega was in 2 episodes, one on the 10th anniversary season and one on the 20th anniversary season, as basically, as they say in this, like the original Time Lord, the first person to come up with time travel. As we know, the Doctor is sort of the impetus for the regeneration aspect of it. But in order for them to be Time Lords, like Omega created time travel technology. But in doing so, harnessing supernova, he basically dissipated into the antimatter universe, and only through his sheer force of will was he able to like hold his consciousness together. And he has a physical form in the episode, but the third and second Doctor, when they in the three Doctors, when they meet him in the antimatter universe, they eventually learn like there's nothing under the costume. Like he doesn't have a physical form because he's all just energy. And then that sort of happens again in Arc of Infinity in the 80s, where he tries to take over the Doctor's physical body. Like he gets into our universe and tries to take over the Doctor's physical body, ends up kind of just replicating him. And then it ends basically with the Peter Davison Doctor having to fight himself kind of thing. We lost internet connection.
So I think you're good. I can still hear you, and you're
Okay.
still moving. Yeah.
So it didn't make any sense to me that it's like, I understand, okay, he's in this underworld, like whatever, but then he's just like this big skeleton monster thing. Like,
Right. He looked like
why
the
are we doing
bone
that again?
the
That's
bone
also
things
not what
outside.
Sutek
Yeah.
was. Like Sutek last
No.
season, the original Sutek was like a pharaoh, like looked, was all dressed in black, but was sort of kind of more, if Lovecraft, like Nyarlathotep, like just like a completely like very pharaohish looking thing,
Mhm.
like that was in the story Pyramids of Mars. And then he was just like weird giant Anubis dog monster.
Yeah, dog-looking thing.
And then in
Gross.
this, Omega is at least can speak, but is just like a big,
Right.
like weird CGI monster thing who eats
He
the
didn't
Ronnie
even
almost instantly. I was just like,
do
this,
anything. Like, there
no.
was no battle there was no fight there. I thought that there was gonna be this big build up to, like, you've got the Ronnies and Omega and, you've got the Doctor and, his whole crew and unit and everybody, and they were gonna kinda have this big, like, battle royale, and it's just like, nope. Crawls out, chomps up one Ronnie. Mrs. Flood is like,
Yeah, she
"I'm out."
scarpers. And then, yeah,
Yeah, she's like, "I got the time ring. Peace out. I'm out of here," or whatever, and then
yeah.
the Doctor's like, "I know what I'll do. I'll blast you with a Vindicator," and that whole scene takes, like,
It
3
it was
minutes.
like,
I was like,
let's go real Ghostbusters with this. Like he literally
"Right,
is like, I'm gonna push you back into hell. Like it's
right."
so dumb. Um, I
The
did
whole
like
scene, I was just like, "What?
I did like
What?"
the as we mentioned, like the time hotel doors, like pushing reality back into the wish world. I thought that was kind of cool.
I love that.
Um, I like I again, I think Conrad really got off easy. Like when Ruby's gonna go and try to get the baby and everything, and she's like, "Can I punch him?" And they're like, "Yeah." And she doesn't. She, like, tries to
Yeah,
talk
I'm
him
like, she
down and
didn't
is
even
really
punch
nice
him.
and, like, literally gives him the wish of a happy life, and it's like, "That sucks."
Right.
Like, he does
Yeah,
not
because he
deserve
did
that.
not deserve that at all.
Yeah, and it was sort of
You already
like
spared his life.
right,
That's good enough
right.
for him.
Yeah,
Because honestly, Kate should have just let him die.
I think so too. He got his arm bitten off. Why did they
Right.
even, like, bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of to your point last season about Dot and Bubble, which you and I have talked about extensively, but you made the point, I think it was on the podcast, if not just in life, but you made the point that, like, the doctor shouldn't be kind of um worried about these horrible, hateful people's feelings. He shouldn't be like the one who has to take on that responsibility. And I feel the exact same way about this. Like, Ruby was abused, emotionally
She
by
was.
Conrad. She should not be the one who's in charge of making him redeemable in any way. Like, and I think that really, like, I mean, it says nice things about Ruby as a person that she wouldn't, but, like, he doesn't deserve it. Like, I
Yeah,
just,
and that's sending again, it's sending a weird message
yeah,
considering that there's so many people out there like Conrad right now that are
right,
in positions of power and speaking out on platforms and doing very much so what we saw him do in, in the previous episode and also what we see him doing here where he's broadcasting his thoughts and his feelings to everyone and people are subscribing to the things that he's saying and believing what he's saying and thinking that he's putting him up on this pedestal like he's, better than the average person. And it's like, no, people like that don't deserve happy endings. They don't deserve, that level of grace. Sparing his life was grace enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. I completely agree.
He should have been back in a jail cell where he ended up at before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do not
Yeah.
think that
Wish him
was,
into a life where he got himself tucked away from society, where he can't
yeah.
bother anybody anymore.
Or, like, somewhere where people just don't listen to him or something like that. Maybe
Right.
that's the wish. It's like, just nobody nobody listens to him anymore or something like
The
that. I
Ronnie
don't
could have
know.
made him a goat like she did with the other guy. That would have been great.
Coulda. Shoulda
Then
made him
he
a
really
goat.
can't bother anybody.
Yeah,
He
now he's a
can't
goat.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that really, I mean, and then just the last bits, like, you know, the heteronormativity kind of just snuck through, and I just don't, if you're making the point that that is that Conrad's reality wasn't good, like, why are we feeding into it
Right.
and letting him off the hook? And it's just like,
Yeah, the extra degree that the doctor shifted the world, like a lot of the main decisions there were definitely feeding into the reality that he set up,
mhm.
especially with Belinda. Like they, I mean, again,
It'd be
nothing against
so
Poppy. I think she's adorable, but I'm like,
yeah.
did she have to exist to be Belinda's daughter
I think it would have been
necessarily?
one thing if Belinda remembered. Like, if Belinda
Right.
was the one who remembered, and then the
Yeah, but it
doctor's
was
like, "Okay."
Ruby
It
remembering
was
everything.
Ruby who's just like, "But you guys had a
Right.
kid, so I guess she doesn't exist now?" Like, it was just like,
Right. Yeah, it's like Ruby, stop that. Like
"Yeah, this isn't your
she just
fight,
kept going
Ruby."
on and on about it
Yeah.
until the doctor was like, all right, shut up. I'll go
Yeah.
and change everything.
"Get your wig out of here." She had a
Right.
real bad wig in the reshoots.
It was a bad wig.
I feel bad.
And you could tell it was a wig too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like one that she found recently. It's just like, this is good. I'm gonna wear this.
It's funny, I got for my other podcasts, I've been going back and watching the Matt Smith years, and, toward the end of, Karen Gillan's time, like, some of this last stuff they shot was while she was filming Guardians of the Galaxy, and so she's
Yes.
bald and has a wig
You
on,
could
and it's,
clearly tell she has
in
on a wig.
retrospect, it's so obvious and how
Yes.
I didn't realize it at the time. I spoke to her in person at that Comic-Con before she pulled the wig off on stage. So I
Really?
spoke to her with the
Yeah.
wig on and was sort of like, "Her hair's looking extra red." I didn't say this to her, obviously.
Right.
Never once was like, "Is that a wig?" Because, whatever. I'm dumb, I guess, is the point. But, um, yeah, I'm not sure what else there is to say because we don't know what's coming next. Like, we can speculate eventually, but, like, we have absolutely no idea when Doctor Who will be back or if.
So I'm thinking about something, and it's something we've heard a couple of times, and I'm not really sure we haven't gotten the answer to it, and I don't know that we are. So there have been a couple of times that like Anita mentioned it, and then way back during the 60th anniversary specials, the Meep of all the Meeps, mentioned it too, or whatever about having the answer to the boss.
Right, the boss, right.
Who's the boss? And are we going to get that now that Shooty's gone? Like,
Yeah. Well, we all know
we,
Mona was the boss, but that is a who's the boss reference, everybody.
yes,
Um, Yeah, I would like to know the answer to that question because there are
Yeah.
obviously still things that even though Shooty's gone, like that Russell has
Mhm.
set up that I would really like to see pay off eventually.
Right. Well, I thought they were contracted with, that BBC had contracted with Disney Plus for 26 episodes. That was the original report. I don't know how true that is, but if so, we should only be a little bit over maybe halfway through that because both of these seasons were relatively
Yeah.
short. Yeah.
Well,
It seems like there would be enough left.
unless they're
Yeah.
counting the spin-off as part of that. The 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 other
Well,
thing.
maybe, I thought we were going to get a backdoor sort of introduction pilot to that this
Yeah.
season, and we didn't.
So we have 16, 17. We've had 18 Shooty episodes so far, 18 plus the 3. Although the 60th weren't part of that, I don't think, because they
I
didn't
don't think so.
Disney didn't pay
Yeah.
any of that. So we've
No.
got 18 and then the war between the land and the sea
Mhm.
is
So that'll leave 8 episodes.
that's 5. Well, is it 8? I think it's only 5 episodes.
That
So
show is 5 episodes
18 plus 5 is 24. So then if there's a Christmas special or 2,
or 2
then
that
that
will
might
round
be
out
it.
the
The one
obligation.
thing I know is that there is not a full season ordered yet for the next season. So if all of this, if what we're saying is accurate, um, and all of that counts as part of the original contract, then we don't know what's coming next. If it's not, then yeah, we do have like another 6 episodes at least like ahead of us. So I don't know. I would love to have some sort of assurances that it's going to continue even, in some fashion or other. Obviously, it's our favorite show. And I don't think this kind of experiment thus far has paid off other than giving us a really good doctor and a couple of really good companions, but who really, by and large, have not gotten Shooty anyway, has not really gotten his moment. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
and I feel like Jody only barely got a moment with the Haunting of Villa Diodati and then just kind of went back down afterwards. And
Right.
so
Yeah, it is
it's a
really a
bummer. Oh,
shame to see him leave.
we didn't actually mention, but Jody does appear in the last episode. I did kind of like that kind of weird crossover. Just to have another doctor there, I think was nice.
Yeah,
And they made the joke at David Tennant's expense. I expected the other
I
guy.
love
It's
that.
always the other guy. I thought that was funny. So it was nice to see Jody. I didn't particularly like that she was like, "Oh, I don't say things like that. I should tell Yaz I love her." It's like, shut up. Like we know you
Yeah,
didn't.
don't don't do that.
Whatever. What? Don't pander. Come on, quit pandering. But
We
anyway,
already let Thasman people live our lives in peace. Don't bring
yeah.
that back up.
So yeah, that was my sort of that's my takeaway. That's your takeaway, I guess. Like I really liked 3 of the episodes and I really didn't care about the rest of them really. Like, or I thought they were fine. I thought a lot of
Yeah,
them were fine. It overall, like you said, I think is a better season than last season,
for
but it did
sure.
not hit the highs of last season for me. Those middle few episodes, Rogue 73 yards and even Boom, I thought were better than anything this season.
Yeah, that was a good run.
It was a good run.
Like a good little consistent run there. Yeah. And we did see Rogue again,
That's true.
like really briefly in the penultimate episode. So it was good to see him, but it's also kind of that same question of like how to get through and what happened to him.
That's
Transmission
true.
just kind of yeah, the transmission just kind of went out. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess he said he was in like a hell dimension that just collapsed
Yeah,
or
like you couldn't have used that as your last wish. There's a lot of that going around the
right.
internet. It's like you wish for Belinda to have a baby, but you didn't wish
Right.
for Rogue
Save
to
your
not be in
man.
hell.
Right.
But
Who
yeah,
sacrificed himself.
yeah. I'm sure we'll have more, Doctor Who stuff to talk about eventually. We will, the land and the sea and the air or whatever is supposed to come out in August sometime. I think. I think it's August, but and maybe that who knows. But anyway, yeah, how can people find you, Ty? Thank you for being on the show. How can people find you on the internet if you choose to be found?
Well, people can find me on Blue Sky at Tai Gooden.
Wonderful.
I'm pretty simple.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Kyle_Anderson, and I am nowhere else. But yeah, thank you very much, Ty. You are
Are
my
you
friend,
enjoying
and
being
I'm
nowhere else?
hmm?
Are you enjoying being nowhere else
I love
besides
it.
Letterbox?
I really love it. I do
I love that for
not
you.
I do not miss social media at all. But yeah, so thank you all very much for listening. Please, you can go back and listen to our back episodes, of which this is the 99th episode. So there's a lot. So I'm excited about it. So anyway,
Yay.
thank you all for listening. I've been Kyle Anderson. Join me again next week on Laser Focus when my guest will be a different person. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was produced, edited, and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit nerdist.com.